I believe we have a moral obligation to those people, and we need to make sure our congressmen and senators represent us and do what's right by those families. I will tell you, for the first time ever back in this summer, there has been other legislation introduced. But for the first time in the United States Congress, there is both a House and a Senate bill called the 9/11 Health and Compensation Act. And I would urge each and every one of you, when you leave here today, and I know there's a lot going on, and try not to forget this, and I'll make sure Heather has it and that we get it out to everyone, but that we send an email or a fax to our congressmen and ask that they immediately take this bill to the floor of both chambers before we worry about health care or cap and trade or anything else, and take care of those first responders and those families who suffered on that day and are suffering right now. Another thing that we were talking about is our soldiers. I think all of us here realize how we have to pay tribute and honor the soldiers. And if any of you are here, you please raise your hand. We'd like to recognize you for your service to this country. But I feel one of the best ways we can pay tribute to our soldiers and our veterans is defend and fight for what they went and fought and tried to protect and defend. And one of the things we can do is support them. Contrary to what this administration and even what the media will tell you, we are still at war. And if yesterday did not make you reflect back on that, we didn't ask for this war. But it's a war we cannot afford to lose, and we need to demand that our president and our Congress continue this effort full force and support our troops so that they can go do their job and come home safely. Now, I know one of the things that's very important to everybody right now is health care. And the debate's going on. A lot of us have talked about it. A lot of us have done what we can about it. Unfortunately, for those of us in this district, our congressman wouldn't take the time to have a town hall meeting on health care, which I guess says a lot about who represents us and who's important to him. But I will say this, if y'all watched the Obama speech the other night, and I encourage you to do that, anybody who doesn't take the time to watch and see what's being said, we're not informed completely. But a couple of quotes that he mentioned the other night that I think are worth mentioning. First of all, he said under his plan, and I quote, individuals will be required to carry basic health insurance just as most states require you to carry auto insurance. Well, if we do this, then he's going to go back on a promise, because he said he was not going to raise taxes on people under $250,000 a year. If you enforce that part of this bill and it passes, we're going to start taxing people who can't afford to pay for health insurance in the first place. And I don't think that's fair. Well, second of all, a quote, I will not sign a plan that adds one dime to our deficits, either now or in the future, period. Now, how many people believe that? There's no way. How many of you are on Medicare? He says they're not going to touch Medicare. For those of you that don't know, in about 8 years, Medicare was going to quit paying for itself anyway. Now, if you take the $500 billion that he's claiming that we're going to be able to take out of Medicare and help pay for nationalized government health care, that 7 or 8 years that Medicare will survive is going to dwindle down to about 3 or 4. So that's very important that we need to be paying attention to in 1,100-page bills that nobody's reading. So I would argue that we need to fight against a bill that is currently in Congress and before them today. I do not want the government running health care the way they run the Postal Service or Amtrak or most every other federal agency.